trustees, staff, alumni, students, and almost graduates. I'm delighted to be here today. My mom would have been delighted by the overly generous introduction, and my dad would not have believed a word of it. This is the part of the program where you are normally subjected to a volley of gratuitous advice in exchange for a lobster dinner and a diploma. We're going to do something different, take a different tack, and be, I hope, a little bit more provocative about what's coming next for the class of 24. I want to talk today about risk and life in the real world, beyond the cascading semesters, this beautiful campus, and an incredibly idyllic setting. And in particular, I'm here to tell you that running with scissors, riding your bike without a helmet, and crossing the street when the sign says "don't walk" are all permissible behaviors. In fact, these kind of transgressions are the foundations of a more fulfilling life. Wouldn't that have been helpful to know as a freshman? But before we talk about the benefits that come from deliberately playing with fire, we need to focus on the inner you, the person we all are deep inside. As my wife, Barb, we've been together for 40 years, would testify, I am not naturally introspective. So I'm on dangerous ground here when I preach about mindfulness. But I have come to believe there is no more important posture than quiet reflection about where you are right now, in the moment. We all spend too much time worrying about what happened last month and about fretting over what might come next, when what we can actually affect is what's happening right now, right here. These are the moments, the people, and the events you can change and you can experience fully, but only if you're completely present for them. If you're looking backwards and you're constantly looking forward, you're going to miss a lot of what actually happens to you. So be open, withhold judgment, seek understanding, particularly invest in relationships, and always act with integrity and purpose in your here and now. But be careful of who defines your purpose. Too many people, young and old, waste their time trying to define the intentions and opinions of others before they act. You can't control what other people think, but you always have the power to make up your own mind and change it when that's appropriate. I would strongly counsel you to lessen your dependence on what others think, especially what they think of you. Be wary of the great evil, which is envy. The rising tyranny of TikTok and the illusions of other people's make-believe lives on Instagram. I call this disease comparisonitis. It's more dangerous than COVID. It's definitely contagious and will become a chronic condition if left untreated. So don't become what other people think of you. Your true self is inside, not an outside veneer subject to the likes and dislikes of social media. I'd particularly like to emphasize the notion of personal agency, acting at all times like you are in charge of you, and therefore responsible for your own future. I think of it as being at cause, where you set your own course, live your own values, and focus on your own inner life, all of which gives you an internal gyroscope to steady you through the inevitable turmoil that life will throw at you. And in doing so, remind yourself to let your core values animate everything that you do. In contrast, don't be at effect. And by that I mean adrift in a world happening to you, buffeted by tides of random circumstance, breaks, misfortunes. It's like complaining about the referee's calls in a game. Life isn't like the weather. It doesn't just happen like rain and wind and sunshine. You can and should manage your own journey. With the full expectation, though, there will be bumps in the road, unexpected detours, but with an unswerving eye on maintaining pace and progress. I commend for your special attention the key concept of momentum. Be going somewhere, have a direction, which also gives you focus. You're much more likely to hit a bullseye if you have a target. And that means foreclosing options in the near term to create more opportunity in the longer term. We lived for many years in the Bay Area, where I had an opportunity to see and meet Jerry Rice. He's an NFL Hall of Fame football player with 3 Super Bowl rings. And he was fond of saying about his rigorous training regimen, "I do today what others won't, so I can in the future do what others can't." Said another way, what he was saying is make your right now moments count. Which brings us back to the subject of risk, taking chances, acting boldly, going to uncomfortable places, and my favorite, occasional, mischievous misbehaving. Skinny dipping comes to mind as a personal favorite. Plus, I could add here a long list of scary things which worry parents and annoy college administrators. When I speak to new college graduates about their budding careers, I often hear their concerns about managing, avoiding, compartmentalizing, insuring against risk. They cite myriad dangers: bad bosses, dead-end careers, wrong places to live. And it seems like no one wants to make a mistake. Everyone wants to get an A on this first test in life, like it's some kind of college exam. However, what's striking is and what's often missing from these conversations is any appreciation of what wonder risk-taking brings. The value that might flow from taking chances and making some inevitable mistakes, including big mistakes. Here's the rub, and it's at the core of all the important decision-making in front of us. jobs, places to live, and most important, friends and romantic partners. Unfortunately and awkwardly, risk is also intimately, inextricably associated with reward. By that, I don't mean financial. I mean more holistic life outcomes, deep relationships, meaningful work, opportunities to contribute to the larger society. These are the things that matter most, and you'll need to put yourself on the line to meet those goals. It's definitely not like college, where, if we're honest with each other, if you do your work, don't get in too much trouble, show up for most of your classes, freshmen become sophomores, then juniors, then seniors, hear a speech, have a lobster bake, and you get a diploma. You've probably already heard a lot about managing risk, including from people who are ill-qualified to offer that advice. They'll talk about playing the field, keeping your options open. There's a ton of advice out there about careers, friends, romantic relationships, geographies, where you might live, where you might work. I sum it all together and put all of those things together into the world is your oyster kind of theory, in which you were advised to say yes to everything. Sample broadly from the whole wide world buffet. May even have gotten a graduation card recently that says there are no limits to what you can do and where you can go. That all sounds incredibly enticing in theory, but in practice, it is dangerous nonsense. Here's why. In the real world, building a meaningful life is about learning to say no, firmly and politely. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but it's critical for you to thoughtfully foreclose options by making deliberate decisions, focusing on what matters most, and going deep. In situation after situation, I see reward flowing to specialization in the form of demonstrated competence, exciting work, personal satisfaction, daily happiness, contributions to society, the whole big bundle of gratification. It turns out, whether you're an aspiring musician, hard-charging journalist, environmental scientist, budding entrepreneur, monomaniacal focus on getting good at something is what matters most in building a foundation for your future. My advice to you is learn your craft. Don't board a bus, learn to drive the bus. Otherwise, you are unwittingly playing a personal lottery, hoping to catch a lucky break, get hit by a friendly bolt of lightning. While that could happen, it's bad planning and terrible life strategy. I'm not against dabbling, sampling different options, exploring the world around you. I'm simply saying that the wandering minstrel is unlikely to become Bad Bunny or Taylor Swift and playing arena rock and roll to legions of fans. Somewhere, sometime, you're eventually going to need to pay your professional dues. Whether you're an artist, a musician, a teacher, a lawyer, or a doctor, it's always the same story. Whatever you intend to do, learn to do it well. In particular, I would argue the general destination is more important than turn-by-turn driving directions. I'll forewarn you, there are many detours ahead because life's journey is always disorganized, poorly signposted, and never linear. There are no straight lines out there. You'll instead need to embrace the idea of more flexibility. Be obsessed with where you are going, not how you get there. Focus on the what, not the how, which means your planning and prediction capabilities aren't nearly as valuable as your reaction and coping skills. I think adaptability is the ultimate ability. And that's because there is a joyful and beautiful randomness to what's coming next. The delight in life is really the raw uncertainty of it all. That uncertainty often looks like risk, but is really just random experience washing up on your personal beach. Accept the risk, manage the consequences, adapt to the rest, keep your eyes open to the opportunities that lurk there, because they often appear in plain sight but disguised as an unwelcome surprise. At Commencement tomorrow, you will have assigned seating. But once you get the diploma, it's going to be a free-for-all around where you go next. I'd emphasize and underscore, you have a choice about where you sit in the great theater of life. Just remember, the world values competent actors who can play a role more than the most enthusiastic and avid spectator. Don't be in the audience. Get yourself on stage, play your part. Be a cast member. Share the experience with those closest to you, your personal ensemble. These trusted relationships comprise your outer self, the outside you. Not a fake digital hall of mirrors reflection, but the accreted strength and personal connections forged over a lifetime with family, friends, and special partners. These relationship bonds are your exoskeleton, powerful support system that makes you more than you, and at the same time creates a bulwark against harm and disappointment. My favorite line from Shakespeare comes from Hamlet, when the unstable Prince of Denmark says, "There is nothing either good or bad. Thinking makes it so." To be sure, the man had other issues, but he was entirely right about the power of attitude to change your perspective, and in doing so, change your life. In parting, my simple counsel is to do 3 things to manage your own attitudes. Firstly, be mindful of the inner you. Know yourself without judgment. Be self-aware. Heed your own counsel. Make your own path. You are in charge of you. Secondly, seek avidly, accept gratefully as much risk as you can tolerate. It's an integral part of a fully articulated life. You'll be emboldened, provoked by the challenge, and rewarded for your intrepidness. Finally, get ready to share those experiences, good and bad, with your family, your friends, and especially your lovers. They are your outer self. That sharing reflex will make you stronger and more complete. Good luck. Best wishes. Enjoy the lobster bag, and go Bears.